All right.
A kind of a meta question that I think a lot of people are either asking or probably want to ask or is on top of mind, whether they're watching live or they're watching the recording. Could you just speak to your feelings or your thoughts around how do I discover my type around a test? Like online tests, there's a new app that's out now. There's all sorts of tools that are starting to be available. What has been your experience with these types of tools to test yourself online? Maybe just give us some guidelines, things we could be thinking about in general, because I know there's like a lot of specific test questions, but let's just speak to it at kind of a meta level as we get to the content of some of the other questions.
Sure. So, I mean, I think at a certain level, it's really important for people to take responsibility for finding their type themselves. I think a lot of times, and it's just natural, we want an authority to tell us what type we are, or we want a test to tell us what type we are. And we give over our power and authority to a test or another person because, you know, we want the answer. And sometimes we don't have confidence that we can get there ourselves. And so I like to tell people that finding your type is a process. And I would think of it as finding different data points and then really doing some self-reflective work to figure out what makes the most sense to you. You know, I actually did have an authority tell me in the beginning what type they were. They thought I was. David Daniels, who was my first Enneagram teacher, told me he thought I was a 2. But I went home and I got Helen Palmer's first book, which is the book that was out then. And I read about 2. And I kind of said, does this match my experience or not? Now, it's a tricky thing because a lot of us, when we try to do that, there may be 1 or 2 or 3 types that we resonate with, and it can be hard to tease apart, you know, which one is the real type. And so again, that's why I say, give yourself some time and space to have a process around it. Now, the sad truth is most of the Enneagram tests out there that you find online when you Google Enneagram test are not accurate.
Yeah, it's the same thing with Myers-Briggs. It's just
they're really not. And especially some of the most popular ones that aren't that expensive that everybody takes, you know, I hear all the time, like, oh, I took this test and I came out as this. And, you know, it's almost meaningless because sometimes there's a bar graph and all 3 are the same. And I mean, again, if you look at that as, okay, 1 data point, you know, that's 1 piece of data, but not as the final answer, it can be okay to take a test. But I think it's important to always put that through your own filter. It's also good to, you know, find someone who knows the Enneagram really well, but make sure it's someone who really knows it and really knows it well. You know, like a coach or a teacher who can help guide you. You know, I do typing interviews. Some of my colleagues do typing interviews. My teaching partner and I have a course that we call Providing Powerful Enneagram Solutions, that where we teach people to type and assess people. And we provide an interview and multiple methods. We have a flow chart, partly because we want to train Enneagram practitioners to do it kind of the hard way, but learn the Enneagram really, really deeply and really, really well so they can be a check on a test. So, you know, they can, if you do an interview with people, they can take a test and you can take that into account. You know, the person can say, well, I took this test and I came out as this, and I took this test and I came out as this. Again, as long as you don't look at that at the final answer. And then you can take an interview with a person who knows it really well. But again, depending on who they are and their credentials, they might be wrong too. So it's really important to see it as a process, to get different data points. You know, sometimes you can sort of do reading yourself, ask someone who knows you really, really well, who you trust, to share that kind of, and ask for feedback. But think of it as a process and don't rely on any one test, and let it be the first sort of chapter of your self-development path, is learning about what type you are, reading different descriptions, asking yourself, you know, is that really me, or is that who I want to be seen as? Or if I read an Enneagram description and I really don't like it, you know, and maybe it is you, and it's triggering and pushing some buttons about what you don't want to see in yourself. And can you be open enough to consider that? But I do think typing is a big issue, and my teaching partner and I are working on new methods also as part of this course, what we call typing and assessment, providing solutions. So it is a process. It's not easy, but I think it's one of the things that's great about the Enneagram is it's complex. And there is a bit of a price to admission. And I would hope people will be willing to kind of engage in that as an interesting challenge and not as something where, okay, I just want someone to tell me what the answer is. Can I say a little bit of something about Enneagram Roadmap and how I think it's the perfect accompaniment to what I spend a lot of my time doing live? My business partner and I offer live inner work retreats. We offer them mostly in San Francisco, London, Cairo in Egypt, Sao Paulo, Brazil, and coming soon, China. And in those inner work retreats, we do deep work with the Enneagram. But we don't really teach the basics. We kind of get right into the deeper work. So Enneagram Roadmap is like the perfect thing to do if you're wanting to do some deep work as a prelude to kind of doing one of our inner work retreats, or even doing one of our professional workshops where we help practitioners learn to use the Enneagram in a deep and accurate way. So we'd love to see you at one of our 5-day programs, but Enneagram Roadmap is really a good thing to do first to kind of, first of all, just, enter into the Enneagram, I think, in a deep way and how it can be used as a growth tool and what the system is all about. But also as an introductory workshop you can do in the comfort of your own home before you come and do something deeper with us, which we'd love to have you do.
Well, and to piggyback on that, Joel was mentioning when we flew Beatrice out again, when we were in Florida to record more content. As you mentioned, we've been listening to that all day long because we've been doing some editing on it. And I had forgotten how good those conversations were because we were talking about things that we were talking about instinctual stacks. So people have been talking, I'm a self-pres sexual, or I'm a social, sexual, or whatever, self-pres. And then you just kind of hinted. And then we have the ones that's repressed, right? And in the Enneagram Roadmap, the content that we were creating, you mentioned how it was like a beach ball underneath water, that we do an elaborate balancing act to try to repress it and push it down so we don't have to see it. And so we talked about those things about stacks and what it looks like to have each of those instincts, what it looks like when one of those is your repressed beach ball underneath the water, and what it means to have one that's dominant. And it was
when it explodes.
When it explodes, yeah, because that beach ball will come up sometimes and surface, and what it looks like when your repressed instinct explodes. I mean, it's such good stuff. So that's now in the Enneagram Roadmap, or those are being uploaded right now, and it's just really amazing content. So I also would like to put my hat in the ring of recommending that right now, because we're releasing Enneagram Roadmap right now. It's a really good time to go check out that program. So